A 19-year-old rookie looked a three-time MVP dead in the eye, froze him at the free throw line, and blew straight past him for a dunk. That MVP was Nikola Jokic. The rookie was Cooper Flagg. And months later, almost the exact same thing happened again, except this time, it wasn't a rookie doing the freezing. It was the league's back-to-back MVP, walking into the biggest stage of the season and making a young defender look like he'd never played the position in his life. Two different players, two different situations, and somehow the exact same result. A grown man, a proven star, completely lost for one possession, in front of a crowd that couldn't believe what it just saw. That's the thread running through this entire list. It's not about who scores the most. It's about who makes a defender look like they showed up to the wrong game. 12 moments, one theme, and every single defender on this list forgot the first rule of basketball. You have to actually guard the guy with the ball. We're counting down 12 of the most disrespectful isolation plays basketball has produced recently, and we're saving the two biggest names for last, because that's just how these things go. Some of these guys are burning defenders with pure numbers, the kind of efficiency that quietly separates a good scorer from an unguardable one. The kind of number that doesn't show up on a highlight reel but shows up every single night in the box score. Some of them are doing it with pure feel, no stat sheet required, just a shoulder fake or a change of pace that turns a defender's legs to concrete for half a second. And one of them did it to a grown man, on the league's biggest stage, with the whole basketball world watching live, in a moment that got replayed so many times it practically broke the algorithm on its own. So here's how this goes. 12 names, 12 possessions, and the higher we climb, the more it starts to feel personal. Number 12 is already disrespectful. And it only gets worse from here. We're starting with Jalen Brunson, because Brunson doesn't need to be the most athletic guy on the floor to be the most annoying one to guard. This season, Brunson is sitting near the very top of the league in points per isolation possession, the number that measures how often a player scores when he takes his defender one-on-one with no screen and no help coming. That's not a hot streak. That's a full season of defenders getting walked into the paint by a guy who isn't even trying to fly past them. Coaches around the league have started sending extra bodies at him just to slow the number down, and it barely moves the needle. Here's the part scouts keep underrating. Brunson doesn't win with speed. He wins with posture and patience. He gets a defender leaning one direction, and by the time they realize what happened, he's already finishing with the offhand from an angle that shouldn't work. Most guards his size get bumped off their line the second a bigger defender squares up on them. Brunson does the opposite. He invites the contact, absorbs it, and still finishes clean, which is the kind of skill that doesn't look flashy in a 10-second clip, but shows up as a permanent line item on a scouting report. And it keeps working, night after night, in the exact same building where everyone knows it's coming. Number 11 is Devin Booker, and if you only glance at the box score, you'll miss why this one actually matters. Booker is running one of the steadiest isolation numbers in the league this season, which sounds quiet, until you realize the Suns have needed him to be exactly that. Dependable. A guy who doesn't need chaos to manufacture a good shot when everything else on the floor has broken down. On nights when the offense stalls in the third quarter, it's Booker's number that gets called, over and over, because the coaching staff trusts it more than almost anything else they can draw up. But here's the thing about quiet efficiency. It doesn't go viral until the one night it does. When Booker decides to go downhill instead of pulling up, defenders who spent the whole game respecting his jumper get caught leaning the wrong way, and there's no recovering from that kind of mistake in real time. He's built his entire isolation game around that hesitation, daring the defender to guess wrong, and most nights, they do. Donovan Mitchell doesn't wait around for a mismatch. He creates one out of nothing. Number 10 is a guy putting up strong isolation efficiency while playing next to one of the deepest rosters in the league, which means every one of these possessions is a choice, not a necessity born out of desperation. Cleveland could run their offense a dozen different ways on any given possession, and Mitchell still ends up with the ball in his hands, one-on-one, because that's simply the most efficient option available. And that's exactly what makes it disrespectful. He's not doing this because Cleveland has no other options on the floor. He's doing it because he can get a pull-up three off a flat closeout, faster than most defenders can even get their hands up to contest it. Give him an inch of daylight on the catch, and the shot is already up before the defender's feet are set. Defenders have started closing out lower and harder, sprinting instead of jogging out to him, and it barely changes the outcome, because his first two steps off the catch are quick enough to blow past a hard closeout just as easily as a soft one. Here's a name people love to write off, and here's why that's a mistake. James Harden is still generating well over a point of possession in isolation this season. The burst is different than it used to be a decade ago. The results simply aren't. Bigger wings can sit on the jumper now, and they can trust the contest more than they used to when he was younger. But Harden doesn't need real separation anymore. He needs a hesitation and half a second. And he's been getting both, all season long. He's traded pure speed for something closer to rhythm, a stutter step and a stop that still gets defenders to commit their weight in the wrong direction. And once that happens, the step back is automatic. It's the same move he's been running for over a decade now, just slowed down, and somehow that makes it even harder to time. Boston doesn't need Jaylen Brown to live in isolation every single night. They've got too many other weapons for that. That's exactly why number 8 works so well. When the offense breaks down late in games, when every set play has already been run and the shot clock is bleeding out, Brown is the release valve, and this season, he's cashing in at a high clip every time he gets switched onto a smaller defender. This isn't finesse, it's force. Brown gets the switch, gets 2 dribbles of downhill momentum, and puts his shoulder straight into whoever's unlucky enough to be standing in front of him. Smaller guards try to slide their feet and beat him to the spot, and most of the time they simply get moved. Not beaten with a move, just physically relocated out of the way. Kevin Durant's entire isolation game is built on a question defenses simply can't answer cleanly. Do you live with a contested jumper from one of the best shot makers who's ever played the sport? Or do you send help and give up the rotation behind it? This season, he's operating at an elite points per possession clip in isolation, on a heavy workload, which is not a small sample. That's a full season of nobody having a real answer. Durant doesn't need a screen. He doesn't need a size mismatch. He needs a side of the floor and half a step, and Houston has built an entire late-clock offense around handing him exactly that. At his height, with that release point, there isn't a defender in the league who can actually contest the shot without fouling him, and everyone on the floor knows it, including the guy guarding him. Coaches have tried sending a second defender early just to speed up his decision, and even that mostly just moves the disrespect to whoever ends up open in the corner. This is where it starts feeling unfair. Stephen Curry is 6'2", gets doubled the second he crosses half court, and he's still running nearly the same isolation efficiency as Kevin Durant this season. The smallest guy anywhere near this list is operating at almost the exact same level as one of the tallest, which by itself should tell you everything about how differently he has to earn every single one of these possessions. Here's the mechanism, because this one's actually simple once you see it clearly. Curry's release is fast enough to punish any cushion a defender gives him, and his handle is tight enough to create a sliver of space the moment they don't. There is no correct way to guard him in isolation. Too much space, he shoots it in your face. Not enough space, he's already gone before you can react. Defenders have tried everything, chasing him over screens that aren't even there, bodying him early, backing off completely, and none of it changes the outcome for very long. Even a perfect closeout only buys half a second, and against Curry, half a second is already enough time to lose. This next one isn't really about a stat. It's about a rookie a couple months into his career, and a 3-time MVP, and it happened in Dallas against Denver. Cooper Flagg had already been through a rough stretch. A broken roster, injuries piling up, a front office in the middle of a rebuild, the kind of season most rookies quietly survive instead of star in. And then this happened. Flagg pushes the ball up the right side, and Nikola Jokic, the same Jokic who's been unguardable for a decade, steps up to meet him right at the elbow. Flagg doesn't speed up, he slows down. He watches Jokic's balance, decelerates right at the elbow, and freezes a 3-time MVP in his tracks for just long enough. Then he hits the gas, blows past him with 2 long strides, and detonates at the rim in front of an arena that had no idea what it just watched happen in real time. That single possession went viral within minutes, clipped and reclipped across every platform, because nobody expected a rookie to have the patience to sell a hesitation on a defender that experienced. But here's the part that actually matters more. That same night, Flagg finished with 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, 1 board short of a triple-double, and he was the best player on the floor. Not the best rookie on the floor. The best player full stop, against a team that had a former MVP on it. Time to rewind for a second because this next one's an all-timer, not a this season clip, and it still earns its spot on this list. During a Lakers-Timberwolves playoff series, Anthony Edwards went right at Rui Hachimura in isolation and sold a crossover so convincingly that Hachimura's feet were already gone before Edwards even finished the move. It happened in the middle of a playoff game, with everything on the line, which is exactly the kind of pressure that usually makes players tighten up and play it safe. Edwards did the opposite. Some ankle breakers age like fine wine, and this is one of them. Every time this clip resurfaces on somebody's feed, it finds a brand new audience that's never seen it before, and the reaction is always the same. Hands over the mouth, rewind, watch it again, just to make sure it actually happened. It's the kind of move that gets studied by young players trying to figure out exactly where the fake starts and the real move begins, and even in slow motion, it's not obvious. Number 3 is about the mechanism, not just the moment. Luka Doncic isn't the fastest guy on this list, and he doesn't need to be, because his entire isolation game runs on pace, not raw speed. This season, he's generating strong isolation efficiency, and the way he gets there is almost unfair to watch up close. He doesn't create separation with his legs. He creates it with his shoulders, his hips, and a change of speed that gets defenders leaning before they even realize they've committed to a direction. Switch a big man onto him, and it becomes a strength problem instantly. Switch a smaller guard onto him, and he just walks them straight into the paint and decides for himself whether it's a finish, a foul, or a pass to somebody standing wide open. There's almost no matchup a defense can throw at him that actually solves the problem for more than a possession or two, which is exactly why opposing coaches spend entire film sessions just trying to figure out who to switch on to him last. Anthony Edwards is back, and this time it's not an old clip, it's the entire current season, and the numbers are almost hard to believe. Edwards is running one of the most efficient high-volume isolation seasons in the league right now, and most fans haven't even noticed, because Edwards doesn't need a viral clip to back it up. The tape already speaks for itself, possession after possession, night after night, quietly stacking up in a way that doesn't always make the highlight package, but shows up every time somebody actually charts the film. Here's what makes it dangerous. When Edwards decides to go downhill first and uses the jumper as a counter instead of a first option, there's no clean answer for it anywhere. A first step that forces contact at the rim, a pull-up that punishes anyone who backs off an inch. And now, a three-point shot that's actually reliable enough to keep defenders honest from deep. Minnesota's entire late-game offense can run through one single possession, because that one possession is nearly impossible to guard cleanly, no matter who you put on him. Small, big, quick, physical, it doesn't really matter. The outcome tends to look the same. Coaches around the league have started game planning specifically for the counter, not just the drive, which is the clearest sign yet that the jumper is no longer the soft spot in his game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander walked into Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals with something to prove. 2 nights earlier, he'd shot 7 for 23, a rough 30%, in a double overtime loss that had people questioning whether the 2-time MVP was finally hitting a wall. Back-to-back MVP seasons, and suddenly everybody had an opinion about what was wrong with him, about whether the playoff grind had finally caught up to a guy who'd carried the load all year long. So he answered the only way he knows how. Late in the third quarter, Gilgeous-Alexander gets the ball on the wing against Spurs rookie Carter Bryant, sells a hesitation, and crosses him over so hard that Bryant's balance is completely gone before Gilgeous-Alexander even takes his next dribble. He calmly rises into a mid-range jumper like nothing happened and buries it, pushing Oklahoma City up 85-77. There was no hurry to it at all, no sense that the previous 2 nights of criticism had rattled him in the slightest. Just a cold, mechanical move that happened to end a young defender's night in the span of one dribble. The clip was everywhere within minutes. Fans didn't just call it disrespectful, they called it diabolical, unguardable. By the final buzzer, Gilgeous-Alexander had 30 points, 9 assists, 2 blocks, on 50% shooting, in a game his team absolutely needed to tie the series. 2 nights after everyone doubted him, on the league's biggest stage, against a rookie who genuinely never had a chance. That's not just a highlight. That's the entire theme of this list, wrapped into one single possession. Doubt him for one bad night, and he'll make you regret it by the very next one. So there it is, 12 defenders, 12 reminders that isolation basketball hasn't gone anywhere, no matter how many people say the league's turned into nothing but a 3-point contest. A rookie froze a 3-time MVP at the elbow and nearly finished with a triple-double the same night. A 2-time MVP got doubted for one bad shooting performance and answered by making a rookie forget how to guard anybody at all. 12 different players, 12 completely different styles, speed, patience, size, pure shot-making, and every single one of them arrived at the exact same result. A defender left standing in the wrong spot, watching the play happen to him instead of around him. And somewhere in a Minneapolis locker room right now, Anthony Edwards is putting up numbers nobody's really talking about yet, which probably means he's next on this list before the season's even over. Basketball's supposed to be 5-on-5. These 12 possessions were just one on nobody.